Oh,
Good story.
It's come on, Twitch it up. Do you want to pick the left Twitch or the right Twitch?
Twitch it up.
Twitch it up.
All right.
Twitch it up.
Okay, here we go.
Yep. Not doing it.
We're good, Roger?
Yes.
3, 2. Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Hello, Internet.
Hey, Rob DeMillo, how's it going?
Good.
Oh.
How are you? How's
Good
everybody
morning,
doing?
Rob.
Good morning, Sarah. Good afternoon.
Have you caught any of our goodnight Robs?
Oh,
We don't do
No.
it every show, but
No,
we do
do
it.
it-
We do it somewhat regularly.
Every once in a while.
I have
Yeah,
been listening for it. I swear to God, I have been listening for it. But it's
It's in the
If you-
rundown.
If you were a
oh,
real
love it.
listener,
Oh, I
you would hear it.
love it. I am a real listener.
No, I know. I
Some-
know.
some-
He's
sometimes-
already
sometimes-
asleep by then. That's why.
Sometimes your real listener like peters out at some point. But
We put him to sleep somewhere around the
makes me
mailbag.
so happy. That makes me so happy.
No, we do. Every once in a while we say, good night, Rob.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes
oh.
it's Sarah. Sometimes it's me.
Yeah.
Does everyone ever ask what that is? It's good.
Yes.
Yeah,
Every so often we'll get someone being like, what's the Rob
Somebody's
thing?
asked a couple things.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think most people they're like, well, we know what they're doing. They've already explained it.
So right before we started going live on Twitch, Rob was explaining that his Surface takes a lunch break.
Yeah, it does. So somewhere between 12 and let me start the story again. So I've got a Surface Pro 7. The last one they didn't give it a number, did they? It's the Surface Pro, go to whatever.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
last
they skipped 9, right?
one, they skipped one of them. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It might have been this one actually. So anyway, so the
Okay.
Surface Pro 7, somewhere between noon and 1:30, it goes from 3.5 gigahertz chip speeds to 0.4. And it's a thing. Like if you look this up on Reddit, like people know that it does this. And there's no discernible reason for why it's doing it. There's a piece of code that's probably ill-advised to put on your machine called throttle stop, which basically removes all the speed constraints off your chip. And so if you run that thing in the background, it doesn't affect you. But there's some process that we just can't trace down. That's like
That
makes
just
things slow down.
and it's local time, whatever the
It's-
time the Surface is set to.
More or
It's
less,
not-
yeah.
Yeah.
More or less, yep. Yeah, because I if I travel, if I go cross country, it'll be noon there when it
Yeah.
happens. So it's local.
So it's
to the
just
machine.
looking at the clock time
Yep.
on the computer itself and going, oh, it's
Yep.
noon. We need to throttle down the processor.
Yep.
I
It's pretty-
wonder
pretty-
what hack was left in from
Yeah,
testing that causes that.
It's going to be something like that, and
Yeah.
but it makes it. What's interesting about it is it makes the PC unusable. You just cannot use it. When you cut down.
And there's no way to get out of it until 1 o'clock.
You got to reboot. If you reboot, it comes back.
If you rebooting is the workaround.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's
But
Windows 10 and all that jazz.
Yeah, it's all, everything's up to date, and it's all that stuff, and it's just that machine.
And
Right,
if
so
you,
I've got a number of Surface books and Surface tablets and stuff, and they're different versions.
so it's the Surface Pro 7 is the newest
Yeah,
one. I assume
yeah,
it's that.
Yeah.
So if you leave it, if you don't reboot, will it just stay throttled forever, or does it stop at 1 o'clock?
If I were to do that, I would be putting my fist through like walls and things. I've never actually conducted that.
No. Yeah.
experiment.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You haven't taken one for science.
No,
Yeah,
I have not
got
taken
it.
one. I've taken a lot
I
of
don't
things
blame
for
you.
science, but not that.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's like you punch a key on the keyboard and then you wait, and then it shows up. Like it's that kind of it's that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hey, Tom, real quick, want to make
Uh-huh.
sure we have our assignments for the rest of the tabs, always.
Oh, I looked at the first one and then I
Yeah.
oh, they're there.
Which is,
but they're
and I
not.
could have done it, but I just wanted to make sure you didn't.
You're right,
there
you're
was the order was as
The
I would
order have
expect.
been as you
yeah.
expected, but
Okay.
you never know. Sometimes we like to play fast and loose with the order. So
True.
hey, W Scott S1 subscribed at Tier 1 on Twitch.
Yay.
6 months currently. 6 month
Oh,
streak. And
hey.
W Scott S1, the person who puts the links
We need like
into
a
the
cowbell for these
Yeah.
moments. We really
we?
do.
What we got?
Do we do a little audience?
Is that annoying though? You know what I have? I don't
You probably have an
I don't-
app that has a cowbell, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there is an app. I have a miniature Liberty Bell somewhere.
That's cowbell-ish, right?
It's
I
more
don't know.
patriotic.
Yeah.
sounds like a cowbell.
Yeah.
We need more cowbell.
That's right.
Well, the thing with
Liberty
the thing
Bell.
with the cowbell is like when it's rhythmic, that's the only time it really sounds like, oh yeah, cowbell. Otherwise, it's just a bell.
Yeah, like hitting
It's the
bell
cowbell. Yeah, cowbell is
with a
in a
drumstick
song.
sound. Yeah,
yes.
right.
Then you're like, oh,
Don't
cowbell.
don't fear the reaper. Don't fear the
That's
reaper.
right. Well, I won't.
Good.
Never have.
Oh, good.
Anytime. Come on over, Reaper.
He's coming for you.
brunch.
He's coming.
Yeah.
It's the avocado toast with the
Don't
reaper.
fear the reaper.
Do you guys watch? So
Avocado toast.
do you watch? Here's my guilty pleasure. Do you watch Supernatural?
No.
No.
No. So there was season 5 or 6 of Supernatural. Of course, the Grim Reaper shows up, and there's an amazing scene where one of the main characters is in a pizza parlor in Chicago, having a slice of deep dish with the Grim Reaper, and it is. I've watched it like 30 times. It's amazing.
It's pretty great.
It's so surrealistic that it's like.
Yeah, well, so big news in the Lane household. So new place,
Yes.
new everything.
Yes.
Lots of stuff to figure out. Took me 5 hours on Saturday to figure out how to get all my smart stuff to talk to my router. Just longer than you think it's going to be, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But I got there. But it was a day-long process. Yesterday the TV guys came, and the TV being mounted above a fireplace, so it's all very has to be just so.
Yes.
Also worked out fine. They were here. They got here at 3. The sun went down because I took a variety of photos. Like it just we descended into darkness.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They left at about 9.
At
PM?
night.
Yeah.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah.
Usually they just call it
and they
day
did
at
a great
5.
job, and it was 2 of them, and they were really cool. But it was, again, me being like, I don't know, they'll come at 3, they'll be done by, I don't know, 5, very latest. No, not the case. Turns out drilling into redwood panels is a whole thing.
Yes.
Requires lots of different hardware.
It's a tough wood, and then they probably want to make sure they don't wreck the panels because they're hard to replace.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing, again, learned a lot yesterday. The nice thing about redwood is it's a very strong wood.
Yeah.
So once you get in there, you're good to go. Like no one was worried that the TV wasn't gonna hang well.
Yeah.
But it was all about, how to drill, in a way that was going to be
Redwood's
the least, I don't know.
Redwood's great, but it's because they literally chopped a lot of them down, which is why the Bay Area looks the way it does to build all the homes in San Francisco. It's really expensive. So it's one reason why people do buy at least older homes in certain parts of the country is because they were built out of redwood, and it's. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to add to that.
Well, it's it's lovely. But
lovely.
it is you gotta work around it in a unique way.
Well,
And, they sort of got here and we're like, okay.
If you get the
we need these tools.
If you get the hardwood, which is the wood that's like in the middle of the tree where it's the densest, it's generally considered to be naturally pest free. So like termites, carpenter ants, and it's naturally fire resistant.
Yep.
So like my sister's house,
really?
they have these fire breaks on the wall. They're just basically chunks of redwood that they cut to size.
And it doesn't rot. So there's a I pulled out my windowsill. This house I bought in Oakland. I pulled out my windowsill to replace it, and the framing of the house, the framing of the house, the stuff that you and I would normally do as 2x4 framing, was redwood framing.
Oh shoot!
And so the whole
you
thing,
almost want to just like strip everything and look at it, right?
Kind of do.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, this is from the era when you could buy it for 12 cents a board foot or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
These trees will last forever.
It's funny because I don't know. I mean, I'm obsessed with the house because I'm doing so much stuff in it right now. But like, it's so beautiful, but there's so much wood. Like part of me is just like, maybe an accent wall of white might be nice. But once you do that, you're screwed. Can't go back.
Nope.
Like you
No.
kind of just want to leave it alone.
No, you can put like
You just
something
and just
over
sort of embrace it, put some art up, and just be like, these are my big old redwood walls.
Yeah.
I don't have red. I think my house is framed in redwood because I looked at it. It looks a lot like redwood, but it's also from 1936.
Yeah, I had a contractor tell me that there was one point where the price curves it was cheaper to do redwood than pine.
Oh wow.
So it was kind
Not
of like,
the case anymore.
oh no. I built a pergola in the backyard, and I paid for that. I was like,
Wait, you built
shocked.
a what? A
pergola.
Ooh, what
it's
is
like
that?
It's
Like a yurt?
It's kind of like a almost
6-post structure
gazebo-esque, I guess.
Yeah,
you'd
basically.
Say. Yeah.
It's different than a pagoda, but in
You
the
know,
same
you have
class.
like lattice up.
Doesn't a
above
pagoda
it.
have to be round?
Is that right? Okay, so a
So
pergola
this is
doesn't
just
have to be.
It's a freestanding structure it's 4, 6, or 8 posts, and then there's a lattice work top,
Okay.
Yeah.
and it's meant to reduce but not cut the sunlight down.
Gotcha.
Oh, do you rent it out for weddings?
I could, but no.
I have
It would be-
vines growing.
I
on
rent it out for myself with the bottle of beer and
a nice small wedding. All 5 of us.
just.
You know, those are the best weddings. I had a small wedding. You get so much of the costs.
I had a couple small weddings.
You know, some friends of mine, speaking of weddings, some new friends of mine, so I didn't know them when they got married, but they're married now. They eloped and I had a photographer take a bunch of really cute pictures of them. I don't really know where they were, but it was some, beautiful vista somewhere. And they said, the money that we would have been able to save for our wedding, we just donated to charity. That's what we did. Sorry. I mean, your invite didn't get lost in the mail. We just decided to do this. And I was like, that is awesome. That's what I'm going to do.
You just stole my punchline. I was going to say that's what they told you, Sarah.
Perhaps, yes. And they went through a whole Facebook photo process just to make sure I didn't feel bad about not being invited to the wedding. No, but it's it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's such a racket.
It is.
I understand why people do what they do.
Weddings and funerals are some of the biggest, they're so opaque on the pricing that you can't, what am I exactly paying for?
Sure.
Real quick, though, Purple Sage 1970, subscribe with Twitch Prime for 2 months. Thank you very much, Purple Sage.
Thanks, Purple Sage.
You're the best. Well, and also Selving09, 5 months on a 5-month streak.
Woo woo.
Woo!
Sorry, interrupt, Rob. Continue with.
No, I'm done. I am done.
No,
Rob has a redwood pergola. I was not invited to the wedding.
we talk about funerals and the costs.
Funerals
They're so
are expensive.
My
You
machine.
never find
cracked
out
to a halt.
what the client wants in the end.
Right. I mean,
Listen, we don't like to talk about costs. We like to talk about how we can help ease your burden. It's like, dude, shut up. I hate it.
Roger's like, just eat me in my cake.
Yes.
That's what you're going to do.
You're all going to enjoy it, and you'll take a little piece of me and then, flower the world wherever you go.
Oh, what fun.
It's not at all creepy.
No,
Much
not at all.
fun.
It's just too much fun. You
You
okay,
know what?
Woody?
Oh, you know what else is
What
too
will
much
add
fun?
to the fun? Is that what you're going to say, Roger?
Well, I was going to say, what else is too much fun?
DTNS. Oh, well, we're all here. Let's do it.
I think that's a great idea.
Me too.
Walk away.
Here we go. In 3, 2. Coming up on DTNS, the word on the street about Google Stadia. The reviews are out. ByteDance set to take on Spotify and Apple Music. And you might want to track your sleep. This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, November 18th, 2019. In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Redwood, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Roger Chang, the show's producer.
Very happy to have Rob DeMillo, CTO at Skidmore, Owings & Merrill LLP, back with us. How's it going, Rob?
Very good. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I can't wait to talk sleep with you.
There's so many jokes there, but I'm gonna let them all go.
I know. That was rude because I just threw that up there knowing that you would have the discretion not to run with it.
You should not know that.
I know. I shouldn't tempt you. We had a great time just now talking on Good Day Internet about pergolas and redwood and all kinds of good stuff. If you want to find out that and more, of course, sign up for Good Day Internet at patreon.com/DTNS. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
ZDNet reports that some Disney Plus accounts have already been stolen or are being offered for free or for sale on various forums. Some users have had their passwords changed, others didn't. ZDNet suspects that the users either reused passwords from other sites or had been infected with malware previously. Forums have been filled with account credentials for Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, and others for years. However, the speed at which accounts have been stolen is unusually fast.
Mm-hmm. Disney Plus showing how valuable it is by how fast they steal credentials.
Yeah.
The messaging app Line and Yahoo Japan have jointly announced a basic agreement on a merger, aiming to finalize the agreement in December. The owners of the two companies, SoftBank and Naver, will form a joint holding company with a mutual 50% investment. Yahoo Japan and Line will become subsidiaries and investing 340 billion yen to take Line private. As part of the merger, the two companies plan to integrate their business by October 2020, after which it's expected to be Japan's largest internet company by revenue.
Zazu Africa Limited announced a partnership with MasterCard to issue prepaid cards linked to the Zazu Payments app. Zazu lets users in Zambia send, receive, and pay and save money without needing a bank account. This is a trend. We've been seeing a lot of this. Zazu users will be able to get a contactless physical card as well as a virtual card in the Zazu app.
All right, let's talk a little more about the fate of John Legere.
Oh, let's. T-Mobile announced that the current COO, Mike Sievert, will succeed John Legere as CEO as of May 1st, 2020. Legere had been expected to step down after the completion of the Sprint T-Mobile merger. Legere was also named CEO back in 2012. He's been there for a while. The Wall Street Journal and CNBC reported that WeWork, which is also a SoftBank investment, like Sprint, had talked to Legere about taking over as CEO at that company, according to sources. But Legere said on a conference call Monday, quote, "I was never having discussions to run WeWork." Legere hasn't given an indication of what he plans to do after stepping down as CEO. Meanwhile, Boost Mobile founder Peter Adderton, I know, it just keeps coming, told Reuters that he's willing to pay up to $2 billion to build the prepay wireless brand back from Sprint. To buy it, rather. T-Mobile and Sprint agreed to sell Sprint's prepaid mobile networks, including Boost, to Dish Network for $1.4 billion as a condition of that merger. Don't forget, the whole Sprint T-Mobile merger is still facing a lawsuit from U.S. attorneys general. So the whole thing is rather in flux.
As the mobile companies turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
seriously.
Kidding. So it's probably... So it sounds like Sprint and T-Mobile feel confident about the fact that they will be able to get past the Attorney's General lawsuit and that they will then close their merger next year, to the point that they just said, you know what, John's going to pick a date, May 1st. He'll be done as of May 1st. That also implies to me, Rob, and you tell me if I'm overreading the tea leaves, that he does have something set up that he's going to go to. We just don't know what it is yet, right?
There ain't no coincidences in this universe. At all. Yeah. The rumors of him like going to WeWork coincident with him leaving T-Mobile and his background being a turnaround artist just sounds like that's what's going to happen.
Well, it all made too much sense until he said, I was never having discussions to run WeWork. So that made me think, well, maybe we just have it wrong.
This is Legere you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he'll say stuff like that.
I was never having discussions to run WeWork. I was having discussions about being CEO of WeWork.
Or I just decided and I didn't discuss it with them.
Yes.
Now I am.
I am.
Meanwhile, because of the attorneys general, they haven't closed as fast as possible. So they missed a November 1st deadline. So technically the merger is in renegotiation, even though both parties are still totally fine with it. But because it's in renegotiation, Peter Adderton can then step up and go like, hey, I got $2 billion. I think I want Boost Mobile back after all, which is not an easy transaction because Dish agreed to get Boost and Virgin and some Spectrum. So even if Sprint were to say, okay, we'll give Boost back to Adderton because he's giving us more money, it could sink the rest of that deal with Dish because Dish may say, well, it's not worth it if we don't get Boost.
I forgot all about Dish. Did anyone know anything about Sievert?
Not much. No.
I don't know a thing about him.
I mean, COO, been there for a while, but yeah, but largely kind of behind the scenes character. So
Yeah,
I bet he doesn't curse in his tweets. That's all I.
that would be sad.
I know.
I'll
miss
make
that.
me sad.
I can't wait to read those new WeWork tweets.
Well, it's sort of, it's sort of like Tim Cook and Steve Jobs. You can't act like the guy that everybody knew and loved, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Perhaps didn't love.
Or
yeah, that's fair.
Got to do your own thing.
It's going to be a new era.
Yeah. You act like the cranky old uncle then? Is that the deal?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what role Seifert wants to fill. Meanwhile, Roger just slacked me that Apple has announced a press event for December 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern because they hate us and want to have a press event in the middle of our broadcast day here at DTNS. 4 p.m. Eastern, December 2nd in New York City, focused on honoring our favorite apps and games of 2019. So may not be like a product announcement thing, may not even be all that much, but interesting and nonetheless, right?
I'll be in New York on December 2nd, so we can go tell them to just hold off for 30 minutes.
Well, maybe they can honor you. Do you have an app? Or a game?
No.
All right. The reviews for Google Stadia are out one day before it launches for founders on Tuesday, November 19th. And the consensus is works better than expected, but still not quite good enough. There's some noticeable lag, which is not a problem in slow-paced games, but may or may not cause issues on shooters, just depending on how sensitive you are to it. Ars Technica's Kyle Orland said it worked fine on Ethernet for him, but was inconsistent to the point of aggravation on his Wi-Fi anyway. Most said it kind of feels like a beta. The Verge's Sean Hollister said it felt more reliable than similar services he's tested, but does not compare to a high-end console or PC. And Engadget's Jessica Condit said, I wouldn't play any of these titles competitively on Stadia, but the service is fine enough for a relaxing evening. If you don't remember, Google Stadia has now upped it. They added some games, so they're going to have 22 games at launch for $130 plus $10 a month plus $20 to $60 per game.
It's interesting, the whole sort of like, okay, it's not snappy enough for competitive gaming, but it's totally fine for a fun, relaxing evening. Who are the people who want one and not the other?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, mobile gamers, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would probably be one of those people who's like, I don't care about the snappiness necessarily if I've got like 3 games that I like and I want to play a lot, but I wonder what who's going to be diverted from getting Google Stadia knowing, oh well, it's a little bit sluggish. Well, even if it doesn't actually apply to them.
It's kind of interesting because first of all, me, like I actually do game and that millisecond response time is important. But yeah. I don't know if you remember, but I was on when Stadia was announced, and we had talked about it at one point, and I'm like Joe streaming guy. Right, so I've been doing streaming for years, and I was amazed. For the beta, it was amazing because there was just a few people on it. But I was amazed by the sort of overall, let's just go out there and do it attitude of Stadia. It's like, 'cause it's hard, like that stuff is hard, and managing user complaints when users really don't understand like how streaming is affected by all the various bits and pieces between the server and your game controller. They're taking a huge gamble in this, and so is Microsoft, by the way, coming forward. So it's going to be kind of interesting. I mean, this is the same crowd that was like complaining about that the scenes in Game of Thrones being too dark. It's like, well,
yeah, sure. I think to answer your question, Sarah, anybody who games on an older Xbox or PlayStation, especially if it's a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, which there still are some people, will be fine with this. I got a peek at it this weekend, and my feeling was, for me, it's fine. Like, I'm not a competitive gamer. I'm not really attuned to the lag. So those of you who are competitive or think, you're competitive are going to notice it, but I imagine most people aren't. What's a bigger problem is what Ars Technica's Kyle Orland pointed out, and that's to your point, Rob, which is there's something in his Wi-Fi that caused issues that he didn't see in Ethernet. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, this doesn't work. It's your fault, right, even though it may be their router setting or their equipment or something else on their own network slowing it down, because there are so many variables there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think eventually they're going to work this out. I mean, this is the same problem Netflix had very, very early on.
Yeah, that's true. And they worked it out.
Stuttering and all that stuff. So getting those CDNs in place, and they've got the buck to do it. So.
Moving on, Microsoft confirmed that it will remove the Cortana app from the iOS and Android app stores on January 31st in the UK, Australia, Germany, Mexico, China, Spain, Canada, and India. A Microsoft spokesperson told The Verge that currently the app is still supported in the US. However, Microsoft said it plans to further integrate Cortana into Office 365. We talked about that in the past. The company did not reveal how devices that use the Cortana app for configuration and firmware updates, like the Surface headphones, would work in those selected markets.
It should be easy enough to just build Cortana into the Surface headphone system. It's going to stay on Windows. First of all. So Microsoft has said they want
has done a whole push into the fact that they're like, this is just going to be a Windows.
Microsoft has said they just want it to be their voice assistant in software like Office 365. So it doesn't shock me that it would take away the app, but they will have to migrate a few things like settings to other situations. That should easily be done. This honestly doesn't surprise me. It just shows that, Microsoft is saying we are seeding that front end of the market, but we will still continue to use our voice recognition services as an enterprise service, which is where they make their money these days.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
I'm actually a little disappointed that I didn't use Cortana a little bit more on iOS before it got yanked, just because, I like to sort of know how the assistants work. I still think that Google's assistant is way better than Siri. And, Amazon's assistant is a whole other thing. But Cortana, I don't have a lot of experience with.
And go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the I wonder what the motivation really is to doing it. Like, is there a partnership somewhere in the works with Google and Microsoft or Amazon and Microsoft, and that's why there is a
partnership with Amazon already, and they'd like a partnership with Google. So yeah.
But for the voice assistant,
Cortana is integrated.
There you go.
With
sure. That's right. That's right. So that might actually be part of the.
I'm sure that's part of the calculation.
Yeah.
But in the end, hey, Cortana, we'll miss you. Logitech announced the adaptive gaming kit designed to work with the Xbox adaptive controller to make gaming more accessible to those with disabilities. The kit includes 3 small buttons, 3 large buttons, 4 light touch buttons, and 2 variable trigger controls that connect to the adaptive controller over 3.5mm jacks and USB, and can be mapped to different functions for Xbox and PC games. It also includes both rigid and foldable game mats with Velcro ties for laying out the buttons. The adaptive gaming kit was developed in partnership with the Able Gamers charity, the Abilities Research Center at Mount Sinai, and Special Effect, and costs $99.99. That's a big advancement for this, and Microsoft's been doing a lot in the accessibility space, so it's good to see them continue, especially in gaming, to make these available.
Yeah,
I don't know, Rob. What do you think of the price point?
That's about right. I mean, it's $99. I mean, a new controller is what, $60 or something? Like a non-adaptive controller. So $60, so $30 for the accessibility option. I mean, it's unfortunate. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that compared to the old adaptive or controllers that they used to create that were very specialized and very console specific. I mean, $100 is super cheap. I mean, those things used to be like $300 back in the Xbox 360 days and before.
Well, this is just the gaming kit. Keep that in mind. Yeah. It works with the Xbox adaptive controller, but you'll still need that controller separately to the $100.
Yeah, it's still kind of okay. I mean, it's a target market that's very small, right? And so you make up for that you have to ratchet up the price, unfortunately. So all things considered, it's actually not bad.
Well, especially because the target market is small, a lot of times people who have accessibility needs just don't have an option, just don't have a product. So it's good to at least see that.
The Financial Times reports that ByteDance, perhaps you've heard of it, is in talks with Warner Music, Universal Music, and Sony Music to secure music streaming rights and plans to launch a music streaming service as early as next month. This is according to sources. Listeners would be able to search through a library of short vertical video clips designed for mobile phones and then sync these songs as they listen. The service would reportedly cost less than $10 per month and initially launch in Brazil, Indonesia, and India.
Yeah, we went round and round in our pre-show about this, like, because that vertical video clip thing seems like they're trying to take some of their TikTok product and force it in. It's filtered through sources. So my experience is a lot of time these things end up being a lot less weird when they actually become public than they sound when some source is kind of talking through the side of their mouth about it. But I think what is significant is that ByteDance, which has a huge and growing market with TikTok worldwide, can get those people to move over to a fairly affordable service in areas of the world where they can be competitive, like Brazil, Indonesia, and India.
Yeah, and you mentioned, when we were talking through this earlier, I was like, this is going to be like TikTok video stuff. And you were like, no, that's not what this is. But that's, immediately where my mind went to. And the fact that it would reportedly be less than $10 per month leads me to believe it would be a more restricted library, because otherwise, why wouldn't you just, have it at a competitive level? Because you have so many users anyway.
The markets they're launching in are markets where less than $10 a month is a kind of an average price.
Is the right
for services.
Place, yeah. And Brazil, Indonesia, and India it's also very they're not doing that on accident. It's
that's where you see like the really cheap Netflix. The mobile only version of Netflix is in India. That's one of the test markets it launched in, places like that. I do see if this starts taking off in places where they can maybe get a groundswell, ByteDance could become a player on the scene with Apple and Spotify.
I think it's easy for, I don't know, someone like me who's, I'm Apple Music. Many people are Spotify or there are other options, obviously, but those are the two biggest players to be like, we've got enough. We have enough of these. But if somebody comes in at a lower price point and is just as good, who's gonna move over, or who's going to sign up for a ByteDance service who didn't with the others?
Yeah, my first reaction to this is that one. It's like, oh, thank God, another streaming service. Phew. That's great. But
yeah.
but then I woke up this morning and one of my VC channels that I subscribe to is chattering away with they think this is directly putting Spotify in the crosshairs. Mm-hmm. Like it's a deliberate attempt to try and bring Spotify's market share down.
Yeah, but I could see that, especially because Spotify is stronger in areas of the world that Apple Music hasn't really caught on in. So, yeah. Yep. Well, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. Sleep trackers, a lot of them exist. They exist in a lot of different ways. There's standalone devices that do particular things, obviously part of your general wearable watch or fitness tracker. And they generally measure things like sleep duration, sleep quality, the phases of your sleep, environmental factors like light and temperature, even lifestyle items like when you last ate or how much caffeine you've been drinking. Alan Schwartz, MD, director of the Sleep Disorders Center at Johns Hopkins Bayview Medical Center, pointed out that none of them actually measure sleep directly. That would require brainwave monitoring, but infer sleep tracking from other data. But he says they can still give you data to reflect on as long as you realize the limits of what they can tell you, and they can still tell you a lot. Rob, I know you've been using Sleep as an Android and an oximeter to track your sleep. What got you interested in this form of self-measurement, and what have you found out?
Self-centered interest, actually. So I snore quite a bit, and I started to notice the older that I got, I would start to wake up as tired as when I went to bed, mm-hmm. which was just not cool, by the way, just in general. So
the point of sleep is that you wake up less tired. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out what was doing right, and so I started screwing around with all this stuff back in the Fitbit days, early Fitbit days, and so I'd use their silly little "you've rolled over" or "you haven't rolled over" thing, and I could see that I wasn't restless. So that kind of led to more and more things, and I got on the trail of Sleep as Android, which I don't think, Sarah and Tom, you tell me this, it doesn't exist on iOS, does it?
No.
Okay.
Not as far as I know.
And aside from having the world's most awkward name for an app, it became more and more complex as to what they could do with it, to the point now where it's like you can if your bed partner also has Sleep as Android, they'll talk to each other, and when they're looking for snoring and things like that, they can figure out which one of you is doing it.
Oh, interesting.
Like right now,
I feel like you'd be like, it's you because you're keeping me up.
Part of my problem is I think my dog is actually triggering my thing, but
Now
so
you need one for the dog too. Yeah,
exactly. So as the app has increased in power and phones have increased in sensors, it's doing more and more interesting things. So it's not just detecting snoring anymore. It's also looking for light level changes, pressure changes, vibrations, that sort of thing, and it was showing a clear pattern for me that there was problems the way I was sleeping, and I've gotten to the point now where I'll sometimes wake up in the middle of the night jarred awake because I think I have gone into sort of this weird oxygen deprivation situation because of the snoring. So then that started getting me interested in oximeters, and so there's several on the market, and Sleep as Android allows integration with some of these things, and so the one that I picked is this this really ugly, like so there's a company called, and I'm not making this up, Happy Electronics, that makes this pulse oximeter. And it comes with a dongle that you plug in at the end here, and this little blue thing that you put on your wrist doesn't really do anything at all.
So it goes around your wrist.
Yeah, it goes around your wrist.
That's how it's identifying what you're doing.
No. It goes around the wrist to hold the battery and the little and whatever else is in there. This is actually the sensor. There's no sensors on the blue itself.
So why does it have to be around your wrist at all?
I think because the other option is what, you have something dangling off the bed, or you do anything.
Sure. On your person seems slightly more invasive, but okay.
And to your point, there are some problems with this. If because this is on my finger, you put this on your finger, and then this goes on your wrist like that. And if I put my hand under the pillow or whatever, that happens.
Sure.
And when that happens, it cuts the connection to the application, and the application is not robust enough to understand that's what has just occurred, and so it wipes out your data for the night for this thing. But when it does record, the results are kind of interesting. You've got there's a measure of oxygen intake that is rated between 0 and 100, and you're supposed to be in 90 to 100. That percentile when you're sleeping, and I clearly dip below. So one of the things this does do, even if you're not on Sleep as Android, is it will beep or vibrate to wake you up if you drop below 90, so that you can get back to the point. And it's had some effect, I have to say. It's
kind of the digital version of nudging someone when they stop breathing while they're asleep.
That's exactly. And I've seen some very some very complicated versions of these things where there's one I just came across it the other night, and I apologize, I don't have the name of the company, but essentially there's a vibratory strip that you put in your pillow, and then there is a box there, to your point, that you put on the side of the bed, and the cable runs from the pillow to the thing on the side of the bed, and it vibrates the pillow to do that nudge thing to wake you up.
It's funny, Rob, you mentioned Fitbit at the beginning of the segment, and I'm wearing a Versa 2. I wear it at nights. I mean, this thing is on me unless I'm in the shower. It's on me all the time, and in the morning I'm always sort of like, how did I sleep? The thing is like, and there are a lot of metrics going into what it decides, how I slept. This was your REM, this was your deep, this was, sort of your restless period, but it is not accurate.
No.
There will be a night where I'm like, I slept like garbage. I was like, tossing and turning, or Otis was snoring, or the cat was around, whole thing. And Fitbit would be like, you got 7 hours of sleep. And I'm like, no, I didn't. So you don't know that I was up. So I feel like we're getting to the point where this information is helpful, especially when you're like, I'm trying to pinpoint a problem. But it's not really accurate as far as, because like, how do they know? You know, like if I'm laying awake, like silently, they think I'm sleeping. I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah. And if you're not moving, it shows that way too. I mean, that's why I stopped using Fitbit, because the inference patterns on Fitbit are immature, I think, compared to something like Sleep is Android. Sleep is Android because it's got an open API, it plugs into a lot of things. So it does plug into my Google Fit. It plugs into some exercise apps that I use and a bunch of other things, and they share information back and forth. And the inference that it makes, it feels a little better to me. So it'll give me it won't give me a sleep rating score. It'll say your deep sleep was 85% of your evening and restless sleep was 15% and that kind of thing. And then it feeds into an overall sleep lag monitor. So it shows you, based off your age and your weight and your exercise levels, how much sleep you should be getting on a nightly basis, and how much you are, and what's your deficit, or how much are you over, and all that stuff. So the information is there, but to Sarah's point, not sure it's any better. Finer resolution does not mean that the data is better, but
right. Yeah, it's data that you look at and you go like, all right, there's a problem. What's my solution? Right. we're kind of still working to get to that point. Yeah. Thanks everybody who participates in our subreddit. If you have sleep solutions, please submit them. Submit all stories that you care about, that you'd like us to see, and vote on others at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Also join in on our conversation on Discord. It's a lively one. Lots of good friends to meet there. You can join by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS. All right, Chris Christensen, the amateur traveler, has a website that you can use to avoid places that charge resort fees.
This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler with another Tech in Travel Minute. I don't know if you've had this happen where you check into a hotel that you have prepaid for a hotel room and they say, oh yes, by the way, there's a resort fee. If you want to use the fitness center, the pool, or even the Wi-Fi, we're going to charge you $40 a day. It has happened to me, as it has happened to many people. There is a bill being proposed in the U.S. Congress that would outlaw it in the U.S. But in the meantime, Expedia, one of the largest online travel agents in the world, has said that all things being equal, they're going to rank lower hotels that have hidden fees. Way to go, Expedia. I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler.
I apologize for interrupting you, Chris, but that's good information.
It definitely is. Shout out to our patrons at our master and our grandmaster levels, including James P. Callison, Wandy Hernandez, and Jonathan Price. Also, extra special thanks to Rob DeMillo for being with us today. Rob, it's been too long. So nice to have you on the show. Let folks know where they can keep up with the rest of your work.
You keep up with me. I mean, if you look at my About Me page, About Me, Rob DeMillo, you'll see all my stuff, where to get my Twitter and my Instagram and where I'm working now and what happened to my previous job and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you, Rob. And thank you, everyone, for interest in our upcoming listener co-host episode that we'll be recording for the holiday break. We got so many good submissions. As always, more good submissions than we will be able to fit in the show. So if you hear from us, that means you're on the show. If you don't hear from us, it means you're not. But if we didn't reach out to you, it's not because your submission wasn't great. We just had too many to pick from. So please, if you don't get on this year's show, send us an email about it again next year. And of course, don't forget, we have holiday cards coming out with Len Peralta art. You got to sign up for our Patreon or stay on our Patreon by November 28th. And if you want to make sure you get a holiday card, you have to give us your mailing address. We can't guess what it is. So go to patreon.com/pledges to make sure that Daily Tech News Show has access to your correct address.
If you have feedback for us, our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That is 2130 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good night, Rob.
I'm so happy.
I was like, Tom's gonna do it too. Tom's gonna do it too.
I'm so happy. I was gonna do it if nobody did it. I was gonna do it just to freak me out. Watch my sleep tracker go. You had a horrible nightmare.
Yeah. What in the heck? I wasn't sleeping well at all.
All right. We have got title suggestions. Who submitted the title we used today? If you go to dtns.showbot.tv during the live show, you can follow along with us. We have Zazu's Zambian Pedals, a Zuzu's Pedals reference. The Fate of Jean Leger. Of course, Sleep with Rob. It's about sleep. I don't think that one could be avoided. No coincidences in this universe. Google Stadia. It works. Google Stadia. It's total just okay. Kind of like that one a lot, actually.
That's good.
Hey, Cortana. We'll miss you.
Oh, poor Quartz.
Tracking the sleep trackers. Like that. That's a good one, too.
Who tracks the sleep tracker? Is that...
Yeah.
That's
Right.
book, I think.
Yeah.
Mo sleep, mo data problems. Sleep data isn't a snooze
There's
fest.
also Mr. DeMillo, man. Bring me a dream.
Oh, I like that.
We got good ones today.
Yeah, this is a good collection here.
Yeah.
All right, since you're the guest, pick one, Rob.
Oh, good Lord.
That you liked. Of all the
It's up
ones
to
we-
you, Rob.
I'm going through the list here now. I do like the Bring Me a Dream.
Yeah.
All right,
Go with that.
done.
Mr. DeMillo, bring me a dream.
Say Mr. CTO, Bring Me a Dream.
Mr. CTO, bring me a dream.
So
Different dreams.
Different dreams
When you
entirely.
summon the CTO, but
that was submitted by Beatmaster, who is the person who always makes sure we don't miss the folks who have subscribed on Twitch, among many other things helping the show out. Thank you, Beatmaster.
thanks,
And then
Beats.
our GDI titles suggestions are GDI Needs a Cowbell,
A lot of
GDI
redwoods.
GDI Bio Cowbell, Into the Redwoods.
Roger
redwood
ruins
would
weddings
Woodchuck
and
chuck?
funerals.
Wait. How do I ruin?
You
how did he
don't ruin
ruin
weddings.
How do I ruin
You
weddings?
might ruin the funeral for yourself
I might
by
ruin
making
my-
people eat you in a cake.
That isn't ruining a
But
funeral.
you don't care at that point.
That's not. How is that ruining my funeral? That's
well,
what I
it
planned.
isn't really.
It's just altering the funeral.
For us, it might-
It's actually we're honoring Roger's wishes. Eat him in a
I
cake.
could have it at a planetarium and then pay them to have various images of me in various.
You definitely don't ruin weddings, though. Okay, so we'll go ahead and chill
So-
that one.
Into the Redwoods, then it is.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Into the redwoods. There you go.
I was
Old
like,
guys
Sarah
submitted
Pinata turns her back on DTNS, and I was like, oh, look at her
Yeah,
turning
you
her
moved.
back on
Is
me.
she
Or did
spinning?
she move?
Okay.
Is that-
Well, I was doing some stuff back there, so I moved her out of the way. I
So you
didn't
did.
really,
Ooh.
I didn't mean to make her turn her back on us, but she has.
I'm
Is
glad
that
you're
your-
the one who
is-
moved her.
Is that your art on the wall back there?
It is not. No, it is. It is.
He
I
came
don't
with the
actually
place.
know. I don't actually know whose art it is. No, I know the story, but I don't remember it right this second. But the piñata is me. It's a Sarah
What?
piñata.
What?
I mean, I didn't make
Really?
it, but it's supposed to be me.
So people can whack you with a stick and candy.
Yeah,
falls out
that's
of-
why it's a little problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little problematic. So the the piñata she'll just kind of live in here. She's just kind of float around. We got a bunch of stuff to hang from the ceiling, so she's kind of gonna move around the garage. And yeah, the art it's real cool, but I can't take credit. And we've got some Google Fi situation going on here. Oh my gosh. I can't. I alluded to my my long figuring out smart devices over the weekend. Boy, was it harder than I thought it would be. You think like, well, whatever. I mean, you got your Wi-Fi network. You just kind of reconnect a few things, and that's all good. But I have bulbs, and anybody who has listened to Live With This knows I've got some Hue bulbs, and there's a hub, and that goes into the router. And when I'm pointing back there, the router, that's where it is, even though I live upstairs. But then I've got some LifeX bulbs that don't have a hub, or a bridge rather. Yeah, but they still have to connect, and like they all got real confused. The whole thing had to be like rejiggered from scratch. Yeah, and it was like it worked. I figured it out, but it was an all-day project.
Do you have sensors and things? Like, do you have like window sensors and door sensors and all that stuff?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, yeah, but not smart ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dumb sensors.
This is basically at this point this morning. I was like, "Hey, A, my girl, wake up the house," and she was like. And I was like, "This is great." you know that feeling where you're like, "I have conquered this."
Yeah.
But it took a while to get to that point.
When it works, it is wonderful. When it does not work, it is painful.
That's right. Yeah.
I've had an ongoing battle with the Amazon Echo Plus. Is that what it is? The one that supposedly works as a home hub, and Philips lights, to the point that I ended up just getting a Philips hub, which is against the point. But they just kept losing their connection, and then didn't matter if you reset them, you could not reconnect them to the Echo. Whereas even when they lose connection to the hub, which they do sometimes, and that's annoying, you just put in the serial number of the bulb, which is also super annoying because you have to get up on a step stool and get the serial number off of it. But it works. It actually will reset them. But it's like a constant battle to just be like, okay, what things stopped working? I've got these other smart plugs that anytime the power goes out, they're just like, we've forgotten everything about who we are. So
I got rid of the Hues and I went to LifeX.
Yeah, I love LifeX.
And it works really well, but it does chew up an IP address. And and with my life, I'm gonna hit a wall at some point. But there's a moment in the evening where 2 LifeX bulbs come on and my phone can't connect to the Wi-Fi anymore because it's like we ran out of IP addresses. So.
Well, and I told you, like, there have been times because I have 2 LifeX color bulbs, where I'm like, ooh, it's mood lighting, and I set it to be like, when the sun sets, come on. And like every once in a while, it just wouldn't. I'd be like, what happened? I don't know. Like, couldn't really figure it out. And then the next night, even after me not even like figuring it out, it would come back on.
Yeah,
I will say the Hue bulbs with that bridge, they're pretty sturdy.
Yeah, they are. But the lights themselves will throw out less light, which is one of the things I did not like about them. But it's. Do you have a I'm trying to keep the hubs to a minimum, so I've got a Smart Things hub. And that's kind of the only hub I have, I think. And it's the smart. I've got smart hubs managing my non-smart lights, so the Lutron switches on the wall, my shades, door sensors, window sensors, that kind of stuff. And then I use the apps from each of the equipment manufacturers as the controllers for that stuff, and then I tie it all together with Google. So I got rid of A and I went to Hey G the whole house.
I use Amazon to tie it all together still, but Amazon's just talking to the Philips hub now instead of trying to control the bulbs directly. So I have the Philips hub, and I have a Sonos hub still because my Sonos is ancient. We barely use the Sonos anymore though.
What? Sonos is my pal.
I love
Sonos. Sonos is my jam.
We're just Philistines, and we end up listening to music on our headphones. It's so rare that we need music out.
For the future.
I'm actually not. I don't disagree with you. There are many times where I'm like, I just want it silent. I have to like be quiet and still and like I don't know, read tech news or whatever, you know,
right.
where I'm like, I don't need like the Sonos system to be bumping, but I want it to be, you know, I want like 4 speakers in my house, you know, speaker downstairs, like that. It's important to me that we have that.
If it's quiet and still, Sarah, the voices start again.
We will.
So I have to.
True.
So
yeah. Luckily, the voices are me cramming tech news, so I just, you know, just kind of
my voices
fill
are
them into my house.
Sarah, Roger, and Rob. Like,
oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah, it's comforting.
You should see a doctor about it.
Yeah, if the voices last for more than 90 minutes.
I think I told
the show's
you guys
over.
last week, but I had a I had a friend staying with me. She was, you know, kind of recovering from an illness, and she stayed with me for a couple of days and was just sort of observing my, you know, wake up, what do I do, you know, cramming news, get on Discord with everybody at noon, go downstairs, do the show, you know, and she was like, "What is this? I mean, what like is this like a work from home thing?" And I was like,
"Oh, funny.
Yes.
Let's call it that."
But it's a full-time job. Like, this is a career, you know. It's funny how people are just like, "What are you doing? What how do I listen?"
That's how you
I'm like,
you separate the Luddites from the non-Luddites that way.
Well, of course. But even when you explain it, it's like, "Oh, cool, that's really cool." And then they're like, "Hey, you want to have lunch on Wednesday?" And I'm like, "No. Like I said, I will never be able to have lunch on Wednesday ever.
No, I know. It's the hardest thing about our timing. Sometimes I just want to move the show to 10 a.m. so that I could have lunch with people.
And I don't really care about that, but I'm just like, guys, come on. Yeah,
it's just so hard for people to understand. They're like, "Well, can't you just take a break from work for lunch?" It's like, it doesn't quite work that way.
Well, you should ask him, you want to take a break for breakfast and you come over?
Even then, I'm like, you kind of can't deal with me until 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I need to like be in my own zone. You know, like I can't host you. I can't really like do other stuff.
I can try. It's always stressful.
It would be like first thing in the morning, and I'd be like trying to get you out of there.
The problem is,
I could, like,
it's not
be
that
quiet
there
and still again.
It's not like every minute from 7 a.m. until 2:30 is all DTNS, but the minutes aren't always together.
Well, and
the open minutes,
and
you know?
Like there's like breaking news stuff. You just want to be kind of in your zone.
Yep.
To me, I'm like, I just need to be alone and quiet and kind of looking at stuff. And sure, maybe something won't break, but if it does, I can't have you in my house eating brunch. Get out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Unless you're gonna help. You on the show. You gonna interpret blockchain for me?
Unless you're Rob. And
only invite over computer science. Yeah, just invite computer science people to brunch. And the problem goes
not
away.
a bad idea.
It's true.
I'm on it.
Probably. That's the takeaway. If you're going to have brunch, only computer science people, because then they'll help you afterwards. Otherwise, get out.
You know what computer science people have for brunch?
Oh no. What, Tom? What do computer science people have?
Chips.
That's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's funny.
You're very proud.
Rob's like not really laughing. He's like,
it's like, I'm not gonna laugh. I'm not gonna laugh.
Very stupid.
Oh my Lord. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
That's right.
If it makes you feel better, I actually did have chips for lunch.
See?
Nice.
They were with salsa. Chips, or did you have... No. It was like a salsa, cheese, guacamole.
How fast were they?
Thing. Yeah. How what?
How fast were they?
The chips.
How fast were the chips?
Were they overclocked?
Yeah. Were they
I ate them pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah, they were snappy. They were snappy.
Have you ever eaten just like tortilla chips? If I'm gonna make a meal out of it, it has to be like chili or something.
Oh, so you need a system on a chip?
No, I need the chip on the system.
All right, can you cut Tom's mic off just for 5 minutes till he calms down?
Oh,
you know what? If this is the most like, excited Tom gets, I think he's doing
Sorry, can you hear?
No, I'm telling you, and I've said this before. You got good tortilla chips. You got avocado or guacamole, whatever. You know, maybe you make it yourself. Maybe you have it pre-made. You got salsa, and you got some Mexican shredded cheese. You will not die. You
will
can
not.
survive on
die
that, and
immediately.
you will like it.
Yeah. Eventually, you're going to die, but yes.
There will,
Well,
yeah.
sure, but
But we're all
this will keep you alive in ways that you never imagined.
This
won't
will allow you
starve.
to maintain homeostasis for just a little bit longer.
Man, there is a point that I feel like I want to call it adulthood when we decided nachos were a perfectly acceptable dinner item.
Oh,
Yeah, like when they
aren't
started.
they though? They're great.
Yeah.
When they started making them with like chicken and like a bunch of other stuff, it's a meal. It's not just
it's
you know.
A meal.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I remember when Tom, I went to a Giants game with Tom and Eileen, and it was the 6th inning. It's like, should I go up and get like nachos? Because they do the nachos with like the shredded chicken. It's like, nah, it's gonna end soon.
And their nachos are not bad.
The game went into 2 extra innings, and by like the 7th, all the concession stands were closed. It's like, so close.
Oh, man.
I was so hungry.
Well,
after
I
the
knew
game.
they did that after the 7th inning stretch with booze, but I didn't realize that they would cut off nachos until the very end.
I think they probably just ran out of. They probably just ran out of material.
Oh yeah.
They had a like "Do not serve Roger" order. Like, oh no, he's coming down.
Yeah. No, that guy cannot have nachos after the 6th.
He gets nacho drunk.
Well,
you know.
this is the thing. Nachos are one of the few things at that ballpark that, like, for the price, like, hey, it's actually a good amount of food, and it's not like just garbage. It isn't like cheddar cheese sauce. It's like all the other stuff. It's like the tradition.
Yeah.
You get some onions.
Yeah, diced onion, tomatoes.
Veggies, meat.
Now I want nachos.
No, they're
good.
Me too. This is
I
the
mean-
problem with our conversations. I always come away from them hungry.
This is
again
conversation.
nachos. Like nachos are great.
Nachos are great.
You put like, I mean, there are certain things you wouldn't put on nachos because it would be inappropriate. But like,
Sure.
No,
that's all of the condiments that a little fresh cilantro maybe. And like Roger said, chicken, whatever. It's like it's a delicious meal. And it's fun. It's a fun meal.
How do you feel about the disassembled nacho?
Is it a
Oh,
nacho
no.
already?
It's like I feel about disassembled everything.
So they
What
don't
does
call
that
it that,
mean?
but sometimes I've ordered
Deconstructed
nachos.
is another term.
Deconstructed is what he means.
No, I deconstructed would mean they did it on purpose.
Oh.
Disassembled to me means maybe it's just unassembled. Unassembled.
So
is the
prior,
right.
so pre nacho versus post.
Yeah, so they send you the chips, usually with the beans and the cheese on them, maybe the meat.
What do you
But then
mean
they
send
give
you? Like who's
Well, like you've ordered them for
let's
delivery
establish
or
A.
takeout.
A.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You're not at a restaurant.
So they didn't come
Well,
soggy.
okay.
Yeah.
Soggy.
So it's either takeaway or delivery. They and takeaway. Let's say takeaway because there's whole controversy of whether you should have nachos delivered or not. Anyway, so let's say takeout. You show up, they give you the nachos in the carton. They've got the melted cheese, the beans, and the meat on them, but they give you the sour cream, the salsa, and the guacamole in separate containers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but then you're like, now I have to assemble myself.
I've never had nachos delivered in my life.
Oh,
Yeah, let's leave the delivery part out because that's a whole other ball.
I feel like, I mean, the nachos thing is like you're throwing a bunch of ingredients on top of each other and, perhaps putting them in the oven, maybe not, whatever. It's better if I do all that myself. I don't want it to be like half made for me.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be, like you melted cheese, but maybe it's not hot anymore. No. Nachos are, I mean, because it really is like you're throwing a bunch of things into a bucket and eating them.
That's actually one of the worst things is when they give you not cold or room temperature, but just slightly lukewarm nachos. And it's like, it's kind of unappetizing.
You're right. Yeah.
Well, lukewarm most food is unappetizing, right? Because you either want it hot or cold.
Yeah, it's true.
No, I can eat. What can I eat lukewarm?
I mean, I can eat a lot of things lukewarm.
I can-
Well, I
problem.
will, but I'm not sure it's saying I prefer it then.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can eat lukewarm gnocchi. Like, it doesn't have to be hot.
It's not a bad one. I can see that.
Yeah, gnocchi's like it's an odd one to pull out of your hat, But yeah.
Yeah.
Why is
well,
it
but
Weird flex, but okay.
How am I flexing? It's just
No, that's just
it's like saying
Roger's
it's
Noki
just like
flex.
saying I had a Pepsi in the morning. Oh, you had a odd flex. It's like okay.
I'm totally a Noki eater.
Nokia. You also use the Nokia
I
phone.
just wanted to say like lukewarm gnocchi is fine with me.
I'm that kind of person, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you just add some gazpacho soup, and it's just.
Don't know
like
if you
marinara.
do. My dad ran a restaurant.
Lukewarm gazpacho. All right.
Yeah.
That was the name of the
Oh
restaurant?
Has
no!
to be ice
No.
cold.
That's
No.
got-
Gazpacho has to be chilled.
has to be-
Chilled, all right.
It has to be chilled.
If it's lukewarm, that's weird.
Even
I
room
wouldn't eat it.
temperature too warm.
Oh, lukewarm guacamole.
Oh,
I
that
mean, if
is
it's been
mod-
sitting out on a hot day,
Yeah.
it just
Well, 'cause
can't.
if you make it fresh from an avocado, the avocado wasn't in the fridge.
I guess it wouldn't be warm.
Guacamole, no, it wouldn't be warm, but it like chilled is like not
Mhm.
even really like cool. You want
Chilled
it to,
guacamole is not great. No, because it's too stiff.
yeah.
So you want it room.
Well, and it
room temp.
bruises. Yeah.
So below Luke. Room is below Luke, right? Room temp.
Room is. Oh.
Lukewarm is like a little bit warmer.
It's got a little bit more heat to it than you would.
Yeah.
That's true. But there's a point where all those like foods like guacamole and sour cream like it turns,
Mm-hmm.
and I get really.
But it's sour cream. How much more can it turn?
So Rob,
one bit.
Rob, you mentioned sour cream, and I've
Yeah,
talked to
it was-
I one of my I don't know, my crusades in life is that people use Greek yogurt instead of sour cream
Ah,
because it's the same but better.
And it's so much more versatile. I would never put
Yeah.
sour cream in my oatmeal,
Of
but
course
I'd
not.
totally put Greek yogurt in my oatmeal.
And it tastes even better. I'm like, why does sour cream exist? We should
There
just
is
be
a
using
better-
Greek
there is a
yogurt for
taste-
things.
It's really really good.
There is a sour cream taste that I miss sometimes if I'm using Greek yogurt. It's not
Really?
quite as sharp.
I suppose
It's
it
that
depends on the
tanginess that you
recipe
get with
because I use
sour
it kind
cream.
of just as like a little, accent.
Because
If I make my chili, I put a dollop of sour cream on it. I don't think yogurt would do that.
Oh yeah, no, I've done chili with a dollop of Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt, not like sweet yogurt.
Not regular yogurt.
Yeah.
No.
And
Has
it
to be
works.
Greek.
It works.
All right.
Needs
But there's
enough-
something
not enough
like
Greeks in this yogurt.
I can't make French onion dip out of Greek yogurt. It's got to be sour cream.
Because it has to be, yeah.
There's just something about the sharpness of the sour cream.
Yeah. I
The-
could see that.
The cold melon.
But at the same, like inversely, sometimes at night where I'm like craving a little something sweet, a little Greek yogurt with blueberries and honey, can't do that with sour cream.
That's right. That's the
You
beauty.
know?
Well, that's true. But
So
then
like,
it's
I don't know, like Greek yogurt is like, I'm always having that in my fridge. Sour cream, I suppose. Yeah,
This is
doing the
interesting.
French onion dip.
this is interesting.
Yeah.
I consider sour cream a specialty item that for certain purposes, Greek yogurt is staple. I just want to always have it around.
Wow.
Always.
Wow. You
Always.
guys militant.
I just get plain yogurt. I don't like Greek yogurt. It reminds me.
We're
too
the
of-
Greek yogurt
I do
army.
Like Greek yogurt. I do like
But
Greek yogurt. I don't like
if
regular
you
yogurt.
if you make tacos, and you got to do a little dollop. Like if you have Greek yogurt, it's even better.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I will try.
And that way you don't have to keep sour cream on hand.
Right. Because
maybe
the
like-
yogurt is going to be used for other things.
But I always have sour cream on hand.
Well, okay. So,
I also
You're
have
the-
I have Greek yogurt on hand too. I do both.
well, you wouldn't have to have sour cream on hand.
What if I mix them together?
Simplify your life.
Right.
Oh, no.
Marie,
like having
Marie
all black
Kondo your
turtlenecks in your
fridge.
closet.
That's wasted
Just
advice.
Greek
That's
yogurt.
wasted advice on me.
He's like, I don't care. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
both. What's
Yeah,
the
I
problem?
would have both.
Where I'm like, no, make it like as simple as possible.
Greek yogurt is the only
Or
food you need in
nachos.
your fridge.
What's the oh god, I'm blanking on the name. The Russian beet soup.
Borscht.
Borscht.
Borscht. So I make borscht a lot, and I can't imagine Greek yogurt in that. I mean, maybe.
I think it might work with borscht. It's not perfect, but it would work.
You think it won't? It works almost always.
Okay. All right. I haven't tried it.
It's good.
I'm a
It's
believer, though.
Yeah, you guys sound pretty sold. Roger, I'm thinking you're not.
No.
Roger's like,
Have you done it, Roger?
My peoples are generally wary of the dairy.
Oh well, okay, that's a whole separate. That's a whole separate thing. You're not team sour cream or
yeah. I mean, if I was lactose intolerant, I obviously wouldn't.
I love ice cream
in this whole arena.
That's like saying you team Edward or team Jacob, and you're like, I don't watch that movie.
No. I like team. What's her name? The vampire chick that was in the first movie. That was in the family. I don't remember. I don't know anything about that series.
I've not seen any of those.
Esme?
Is that the one?
I haven't either.
I don't know. The actress that played her was pretty hot.
That popped the Tom's head way too fast.
Well,
hey, not embarrassed.
He even got the Robert Pattinson stare down. You showing me a few years back.
Really?
I don't remember that. Did I?
Remember you said like throughout the movie he just had the one expression.
Yeah. That's true. He kind of did. I'm glad I've seen Robert Pattinson in a bunch of other things now because he's very good in them.
A little stiff for that one.
Rob's just chuckling.
I am. I'm cracking up because we're talking about teen vampire movies.
We're talking about Robert Pattinson, who's the next Batman.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh, I wonder if he's gonna have a gravelly voice. Or just
can't we just? Oh, this is probably gonna tick off at least half your audience. Can we just be done with DC now? Can we just say that was an interesting experiment that just did not work?
Well, no, what they need to do is
Joker is the highest grossing R-rated movie ever in the world.
Do another one. See how that works out.
Joker 2.
No, pick another villain because there's like a huge cavalcade of them.
I loved Wonder Woman too.
Oh, Wonder
Woman was good.
Wonder Woman was very, very good. Actually, I'll give you that.
But I know what Rob's talking about. This whole kind of like just like recycling.
Well, how many chances do you get before you hit gold again?
They just don't have it.
None of them are movies.
Oh yeah,
just ask Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese.
I
bumped into Martin Scorsese in a men's room once. It's a long story.
Well, tell us.
I hope did he watch
I
was going into a men's room. He was coming out of a men's room. So this was back in Boston, and he was filming.
Was Departed?
With Departed.
And my favorite movie ever.
Oh, it was a great movie. And so I was vaguely aware that they were all in town, but I went into the men's room, and he was coming out, and I bumped into him, and he's like, up to here on me, and I looked down, and there's the eyebrows. I'm like, oh, like I know you. Yeah, it was pretty.
Did you talk to him at length, or did he just give you an odd stare?
No, he just had a little quick.
I've only bumped into
men's room conversation.
I've only bumped into one celebrity in the bathroom, and that was at a porta potty at CES.
And it seems like a place where you kind of have to just be like, cool, I know you. Bye.
It was Howie Mandel or whatever, the guy from. Like, is he on The Voice or whatever? He's like a judge? Or no, is it America's Got Talent?
I don't think Howie Mandel is a voice judge. Tom would know.
Oh, he must have not have wanted to even touch it.
Howie Mandel was the thing with the suitcases.
Yeah. The $1,000, the $1 million, whatever that was.
Oh, yeah, he was on that, but isn't he also a judge? Oh, America's Got Talent. He was also on that.
America's Got Talent.
I didn't run into him. I was just coming in. And he was coming out, and he gave me a weird look, and then he went by me. It's like, okay.
Wolf Blitzer stepped on my foot once in the White House press room.
I was in an airport with him. He was but a stone's throw away while I was berating his performance on CNN.
Here's a list of famous people I legitimately had a beer with. So, Peter Davison, Doctor Who number 5.
Okay.
George Carlin. In a
that's a good one.
In a closing bar in Florida.
What's a closing bar?
Well, it was like bar time in Florida, and
the bar.
I was doing work down there, and it was the hotel I was staying at, and he was down there doing some.
They're flipping on the lights, kind of thing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So we
don't have to go home, but you can't stay.
And Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. So that he's one of my faves.
Oh,
he used to work out at the same gym that I worked out at in LA. We'll keep it unnamed, but I mean, every time he came in, I was like, oh my God, Look at Ted Danson, just working out on the Stairmaster next to me.
It must
Did you
be
Stairmaster your way up?
It must be so hard to be like a well-known celebrity, then do something very public like exercising.
It must be so hard.
Well, no, I mean because there's a
Boo-hoo.
level of.
I know what Roger's saying, but I think the cushion of millions of dollars would.
Well, you
Depends
think the
on-
cushion
it-
of millions of dollars would get
well,
you something at home.
There's the people that are well known and don't have the $1 million, though. I think that's where
That's
it really.
that would.
That's the Venn diagram that probably is awful. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And please continue to support us at patreon.com/DTNS. Thank you again, Rob DeMillo.
Yay, Rob.
Have a good day, everybody.
Have a good day, and thank you, Ted Danson.
Later.